Hi there, friends. This is Shauna from the Foil Fox, and I'm here on the Paper Tray Ink YouTube channel sharing these wonderful lovebirds. First, I'm going to show you, though, that I'm using the sentiment set that is just Sentiments Love. And then here we'll get into the birds. You know there's a whole series of birds. In fact, this is number 18 of the mini series, and it has the two birds plus a nest and other goodies to it. And it has the matching die set, of course, to cut out those two birds and the nest and a great branch. And then I'm using something that I just love. This is the XO hearts, and I'm going to be using the large heart circle there. And then this is another favorite, which is the skinny heart frames, using the large one for this one. And then Dainty Deliveries, which is also something that came out last year, has this wonderful floral background. So to get started, here are the papers. I'm using some Bristol paper. See, I've marked it with a B. This is for my birds. And then I have some white cardstock that I'll use for my card base, and I'll use it for a variety of other things. I have some pale peony bitty big paper. You know how there's plaids and stripes and dots, and I'm using some stripes. This is spring moss and then new leaf for the papers. And so you can see we're going to dive in here to cut everything out. I took the white cardstock and I cut it into panels. So we're going to cut out some of those skinny hearts plus the birds on the Bristol paper. I have a circle template. This is a 3.5 circle. I'm going to cut that out of white cardstock. And then out of the new leaf, or you can use Easter grass, that you can cut out 2 of those. And then for the this Dainty Deliveries, I'm going to just emboss this. So I'm using a panel and I'm using my rubber mat, and I'm going to put this rubber mat and I'm going to put it through my die cutting machine that way, and I'll just emboss it. So here are all my goodies. I cut 2 of those wonderful heart circles. You can see that embossing of the Dainty Deliveries. It didn't cut through it, it just embossed that wonderful design. And I have 2 of the skinny hearts. I've saved all the little punch out hearts here because I think they'd be really great for other projects, even to fill a shaker card. And so now I'm going to take some glue and I'm going to layer these 2 frames. I did 2 of them because I wanted it to stand up a little bit higher, and also I wanted it to be more sturdy. Some of these skinny frames get a little floppy, and so it's great to have them have a little bit more stoutness to them. I'm going to put that together, and then as soon as that's all, we'll set that aside. That'll fit on top of that of the Dainty Deliveries. And then now the leaves. So we have all those done. I'm going to start out with the birds. Now the birds, there's one side is the birds, and you can see I've marked a line, and the other side is the other bird, that for all the parts. So they're not scattered about. There's one on one side and one on the other. So I'm taking the biggest stamp out of the first bird. I always start with the biggest and go down to the smallest. I'm using pale peony here, and I'll list the colors that I use for the birds. They're similar for the 2 birds. Just stamping it a few times. And then the next piece I'm going to use is these outside feathers. And I'm going to be using Raspberry Fizz for that. And I do spritz this. I'm using Bristol paper because the ink accepts it a little bit better, but also I can spritz it a little bit. It blends the ink very nicely. And now we'll use that little part up at the top of his head and his feet here. There's several that I'm going to put in place. His little detail on his tail. Try to economize my my stampings here, and they have that little part on his head. I'm using the Raspberry Fizz, and for the feet I'm going to use Raspberry Fizz and a little bit of Autumn Rose just to darken them up a bit. Next, I'm going to use, for the breast, I wanted that primarily white, but I'm going to use some pale peony just at the top and the bottom. And then at the very top of his head, we're going to add in a splash of green. And I'm using green parakeet for that. Next, I'm going to, there's a little part on his eyes. There's several parts to his eyes. First, we're going to fill in that little kind of teardrop shape. I'm using honey nut for that. And then that we're going to get his little beak and eyes. And boy, once you have that done, then your bird really has come to life. And there's just one more thing. There's just those little kind of feather detail right up around his neck. And I did that in green parakeet. So he's all done. I'm going to move on to the next bird. And I'm using the biggest piece again. And I'm going to use pale peony for this. So I'm sorry, sweet blush. Sorry, so that it's quite light, and then I'll move on to pale peony for the other parts of the back of his feathers. Here's hibiscus burst. Sorry, I misspoke. I'm using hibiscus burst here. And there's several pieces to his feathers, as you can see here. You just kind of build those along, and then there's this he has a little thing on the top of his head, and he has his tail feathers. We'll use green parakeet, all the same colors as you can see. And then these are the outside feathers, so I'm using the Raspberry Fizz. And that little thing on the top of his head, that's the green parakeet too. And then his eye has the honey nut, the little eye, that little kind of teardrop shape. And then there is this little part that fits between his feathers back there, and I missed it, kind of moved. So I'm just gonna do a couple more on there, because why not? We're not gonna redo him just because it got in the wrong place. And then for his beak and his eye, that is the true black again. So our birds are all done, and now we're going to just kind of layer our card. So I've got this spring moss. I think this panel is 4.5 by 5 3/4. I have a white card base, when folded, is the same size, so it fits the whole top. And then I'm going to put on the dainty deliveries. We're just going to layer along. Now I cut that strip. That's about 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. And I'm going to just glue that right. It fits right at the bottom of the dainty deliveries. Now we're going to put the frame on here. See how all that works? Just dot on some glue. Since it has those open hearts, you need to use something like glue and not tape or foam tape. And then next we have, I just kind of set the circle there to kind of get an idea. I'm going to put these two together. Now you think that these hearts are all the same. They're not. You have to rotate this thing around to get it till it fits the way it is, because these hearts aren't all the same. So kind of have your wits about you on that one. So I've glued those together. Now I have a piece of foam that I'm going to mount right on the back of my circle, because I want it to pop up a little bit. And I'm going to just set my birds there and kind of get an idea where the sentiment is, because I don't want to glue these down until I get the sentiment. And I'm just getting an idea. I'm putting very, very light marks, the top of these heads, and where that love, I'm only using, it's hello love, but I'm only using the love on it. And so I'm going to kind of position this again to get an idea where it should go. You want to be really careful with this. This is one of those that you measure twice, so to speak. And so in this case, you check it twice and then stamp once. And I covered the hello with a Post-it note while I ink it up with Raspberry Fizz, and then stamp the heart there. And we're good to go there. Now there's some little hearts in this stamp set, and I'm going to stamp a few of these using the Pale Peony and the Hibiscus Burst. I'm just going to kind of dot them about because, you know, these two little birds are in love, and so there's little hearts flying everywhere. This is a great card to send to anybody, especially your special one in your life. But I think even my little granddaughter would enjoy something like this. And so I just did these just with the stamping block. So now I'm just going to complete this by erasing my lines and putting some more glue on the back of my circle, getting it right there in position. I want to make sure it's right before I glue on the green heart wreath. And then I have some foam tape on the back of these birds, and I'm just going to peel that off and put them in position here. As you can see, I didn't use, there's a lot going on this card, so I did not use the branch, but there is a gray branch that goes with this. And you can't ever do a card without some fiddling. And then I have one more thing I want to add. I love the bow from Birthday Bouquet. So I had to cut one out of the new leaf there, or Easter grass if you're using that, and putting that right in position there. And there we go. It is all done, and you can see it here. It's just so sweet. And you know, it would be great in different colors too. I thought that maybe some black stripes and a bright red heart wreath would be really great with a red where the green background is on this. I mean, there's lots of ways that you could do this, but for this one, I'm just doing kind of a sweet one. Now, just to kind of recap of the major things I use Feather Friends Mini 18, the Border Bling Dainty Deliveries, Border Bling Skinny Heart Frames, and the XO Hearts, and of course the Just Sentiments. But you can pop over to blog.papertradeink.com and check it out. And also don't forget to go to foilfox.com. We have everything there too, and a complete supply list and some more close-ups. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Bye.